But that was not his only stop last night.
The people's champion, Mr.
Oh,
Trump.
wow.
And on behalf of all the
He was on Gutfeld. We've got all the highlights from his in-studio appearance right here on Fox News.
Plus, a Fox and Friend exclusive. I went to the battleground state of Pennsylvania to speak with energy workers worried about Kamala Harris and her fracking flip-flops.
There's guys out here, this is the way we feed our families.
There's tens of thousands of us, probably more than that will all be standing in a bread line. You know, like all my eggs are in this basket.
Wow, real-life answer to the big problem. And Fox News alert, Israel says they stopped an Iranian-backed plot to assassinate Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Starts right now, and remember, mornings are better with friends.
All right, meanwhile, it was a big night on Late Night. Former President Donald Trump joined Greg Gutfeld for a wide-ranging interview right here in this building.
That's right. The former president talking about everything from the 2 assassination attempts to his biggest regret on the debate stage.
Trump also sharing never-before-heard details about how he gets along with his former critics.
And he even spoke about the number one question he's always asked. Watch.
Mr. P, how's your golf game?
Well, haven't been thinking about it too much lately. I always said golf is a very dangerous game. Actually, the Secret Service did a great job. They saw the barrel of a gun, big gun.
Yeah.
And it came out through bushes. And how many people would see that? He really was very exceptional to have done it. And we've been going through a lot of it. We're getting very good at it, but I don't want to say that too loudly because we don't want to bring any jinxes along, Tyrus. It's the most dangerous profession there is. It's always a consequential president that gets shot at. And fortunately, so far, I've been very lucky. I thought this was a tremendous debate. I had people telling me that I'm wrong about things where I'm totally right. I was right about just about all of that stuff, that they were correcting me. And I think my only regret is that I wanted to be elegant and I didn't want to go after the anchors. I wish I did, in a way.
Yes. That's our job. We took care of them. We got it.
Are there aliens at Area 51?
I'll tell you, it's a funny thing because I think that might be a question that I get more than any question. It is the craziest thing. They were in the Oval Office, 3 or 4 pilots. These are not people that make up stories. They said, all I know, sir, is there was a round object that was going 4 times faster than my F-22, which is a very fast plane.
If you're going to sit in that chair, if you're going to do the Tyrus experience, you have to do it right because you are the people's champion, Mr. Trump.
Wow.
And on behalf of all the people of America,
Former President Donald Trump. God, that's so great. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to react to this.
Okay. Hold on. Greg Gutfeld opened the show. He opened the show making fun of the 2 of you, basically, in the first few minutes. He said, sorry, crowd, we're not going to be able to do what we had scheduled, which is announce Steve Doocy's next cookbook. But you're going to get it for free. It's called Cooking with Crisco.
You know what? Crisco, if you're making...
Animal fat.
No, it's actually vegetable fat. I think.
Fats and vegetables?
I think. When you're making chocolate chip cookies, Crisco makes the best one.
Lard, right?
Yeah, good lard.
I mean, you would think Crisco is great by looking at it, but you shouldn't eat it.
No.
But I would say this. You got to see his personality last night, right?
That's
you got to
where
see
he's
him
at his best.
and he just playing off people that don't hate him.
Yeah.
You know, just I want to hear what you have to say rather than I'm going to condemn you for saying it.
Yep. It's the celebrity in him, the hilarious factor that people liked before he got into politics, and suddenly they felt like it disappeared when he decided he was going to run for office.
I loved the format of this because Greg has a panel of 4 people that he talks with. So for Donald Trump to go into a different atmosphere and be a part of that was really cool. Did the audience know that Donald Trump was going to be the guest?
That's a great question.
I'm sure they were totally surprised.
There are always security precautions whenever you go into any late night show in New York City. What's different about yesterday was there were bike racks, there were bike fences all around this building for about the last 36 hours, which if you live in...
They didn't know. That's what the producers are telling us.
Oh, they
now.
didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I've seen it depicted as there was a surprise guest. But if you
imagine the disappointment because Jamie Lissau could have been on, but you're stuck with
President Trump.
But if you are in New York City a lot and you see all those bike wrecks, you know there is a very powerful person in that building,
or a lot of bicycles.
Right.
Indeed.
Right. He did praise the Secret Service a lot last night on Greg's show and at the rally. He taped that before the rally, so was in the city for Greg Gutfeld's show here in this building, and then went out to Long Island. You went out there too to the Nassau Coliseum.
I mean, they sold out. I mean, I haven't been in there since the Islanders played there, and
how many people can be in there?
I think 16,000. They lined up. Not one person I talked to got in line before. Most of them were there the day before or 8 in the morning. They allowed it in. Then 10 was the latest. And then I looked out and I provided the video. So there was 5,000 at minimum outside. They couldn't get in, watching on flat screens. Think about that. You wait 8 hours, can't get in. You're not mad. You sit there Indian style or Native American style.
Cross-legged.
Crisscross applesauce.
Crisscross applesauce? What am I, 9?
So you just had a Crisco flashback.
That's true, too. Don't eat it, even though it looks good. So they just sat there and watched like they were watching on television. Meanwhile, he was just inside. That's why he thinks he can win New York. And by the way, you'll find out if anyone was bored or left early.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
well, thank you, Brian.
Okay, so that was a great tease. To tell us more and show us pictures from the big event out on Long Island, Brooke joins us. Brooke?
Hey, guys. Good morning. Former President Trump filling up the Nassau Coliseum, like you said, which is located in an area that has been trending Republican the last few years. So roughly 16,000 supporters lining up to secure a spot. Trump, a native New Yorker, is hoping to put the deep blue state in play in November.
I can win New York, and we can win New York. We're going to win New York. And if you vote for me, I'm going to reduce your taxes, reduce your crime, and reduce your levels of stress. Vote for Donald Trump. What the hell do you have to lose? What do you have to lose?
Trump also touting support from the Teamsters Union after their national leadership refused to endorse either candidate. But an internal Teamsters Union poll shows overwhelming support for Trump among the union's rank and file. And before Trump took the stage yesterday, he met with an 8-year-old supporter who is battling a rare brain disease. Trump invited the young supporter and his family to the rally as VIP guests and even gave him a shout out during the packed event. I love that story. Guys.
That is great. Thank you very much, Brooke. Young Liam, his mother said to the New York Post, and they've got a great story about this today, said that Liam has been a big Trump fan since he was 18 months old.
I know. So remember, we aired the video of Liam. His mom said, Donald Trump, open this package, son. And he opened it. It was his 8th birthday. And there was a letter from Donald Trump. And he was happy, and then he was moved to tears. And he said, I can't read this, Mama. Will you read it to me? And he just was crying. He has some sort of a rare brain disorder. And doctors told him he would never walk. But look at him. And now he's backstage VIP meeting Donald Trump, his hero.
Right. Yesterday, I just think about the day he had. So I don't know how he got up, but at one point, so he does Gutfeld, he does stuff in the morning, and then he does the Bitcoin thing, makes history, the first purchase of 100 hamburgers using Bitcoin. Then he hops in a car, and then he must have taken, he had people that had paid VIPs, must have taken about 200 pictures right before backstage. I talked to him for 10 minutes, we'll air it on Saturday. And then he goes out and gives an hour-and-a-half speech afterwards, and who knows what he did on the way home. In between that, he does Gutfeld.
Well, he had great messages for New York. He said he's going to clean up the subways. He's going to fix the New York bail policies. He said cashless bail has been a disaster for our country. You kill someone and you're out on the streets 2 hours later. He talked about the Iran hacking that we'll get into later in the show, but he said he wants to make Ground Zero a national monument and protect and maintain it by the U.S. government. Talked about the assassination attempts, and he said he'll be the first Republican candidate to win New York State in 40 years. He has a good shot out there on Long Island. It's the city that...
I don't know what's going to happen in the election. I mean, when you look at some of the polling, though, him being within 5 points in New York, I think it's still stunning. I think there's going to be some regret from the Democrats locking him in New York City because he's hosted more events in New York than Kamala Harris or Joe Biden did at the time.
Because, against Biden, he was getting close. Yeah. Especially because you stuck him in with the trial.
When you look at the sheer numbers for New York, the state, it's random. The city is super blue,
100%.
obviously, and a Republican has not won the state for a very long time. Donald Trump showed up there yesterday in a very friendly part of New York State for two reasons. One, of course, to push his campaign, and he's super popular out, across the country. But the other thing is, essentially, he could give help to a number of Republican lawmakers in Congress, get them reelected or elected, because he knows this time out that he's got to have a Republican House to get anything done, and that's one of the reasons he was there.
Right. So I had a chance to talk to the rally goers because I was stunned at the debate. I found out that so many people get bored and leave early and leave. So I wanted to find out the real story. So I went into the stands before he came up, and I wanted to find out how people felt about being there and were they bored.
Why was it important for you to be here tonight?
Just got to support our country. We got to change things. We got to make it great again.
It's important to support the candidate that's going to see our values, is going to respect Americans, listen to Americans, and want to keep us safe. It's important for us as citizens to go out there and vote.
We keep hearing about his rallies. We heard at the debate that people get bored and leave early. Are you going to get bored and leave early?
No, I'm not leaving early, no.
What is good? Describe the atmosphere.
Oh, it's electric.
What's different in the last 3 years?
Well, mayonnaise used to cost me $2.99 a jar. Now it's $7.49.
Can he win New York?
Anything's possible.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Now, obviously, great sound bites, but Brian, you didn't leave early, did you?
I did.
Okay.
Well, you had a good reason. You had to get up at 2 o'clock.
Yeah, I stayed 40 minutes and he was rolling. But when he walked out, when he stepped out there, he had that runway. It was like the beginning of a WWE fight, or when Tyson walked out. Like the minute he stepped out, I didn't see him, but someone saw him, and the place starts erupting. I'd be shocked if he didn't say that this was one of the best appearances he had. His speech was crisp. He was right to the point. He was on message. He was appealing right to the New York issues as well as the national issues, and responding to the news, the assassination. So he was boom, 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 boom. No protective glass, just two teleprompters, which were advisors, not verbatims. But this place was mobbed, and I just think that the cops did an incredible job. Commissioner Ryder, Bruce Blakeman, they probably could have used more magnetometers, but people were so patient to get in. When I go, there's no way there's people getting in. And just for proof, some of that footage, I don't know, I should have sent in earlier. I just taped all these people on the outside.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, he says, look at the crowds on the outside. I never see the crowds. I want everyone to see huge crowds.
Look at that. That's Brian's video. So the only two people that left early, Brian Kilmeade, who had to get up early, and the topless woman. She flashed the entire crowd for 20 seconds.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and she was jumping up and down. She lifted up her shirt. Oh, there were two. The three people left early, and then they escorted her out.
You mean two of what?
Two flashers?
Two people.
Oh.
Two ladies.
Who did just that. All right.
You should have stayed.
I wish I would have known. I looked at the program. That wasn't on.
So here was a news flash last night at 6 o'clock. Brett Baer released brand new polls, Fox News polls, and it goes to show just how close it is. Right now, these are the national polls with registered voters, and there's keep in mind, margin of error of 3 points. Kamala Harris is currently leading Donald Trump coast to coast by 2 points. That's a 3-point shift since August from Trump to Harris. But when you look at the battleground states,
the ones that really matter, the states that matter,
these are important. You see that Kamala Harris is trailing Trump by 2, but then again, the margin of it's way within the margin of error. The margin of error is between 4 and 6. In that particular, because it is so wide.
Well, it just tells a story, and it wasn't just our polling. Gallup came out with some polling that Donald Trump's favorability is up by 5 points, 46% to now Kamala Harris, 44%. So when it comes to the states, Ainsley, we go back and forth like who's going to win this thing because it's so close. You care about the battleground states, and you care about the electoral college, though. I mean, popular vote. Democrats is always an advantage for them there. But when it comes to the electoral college and the states that matters, I think that's some good news for the former
And most
president.
of the polls, we were talking about this yesterday, you said most of the polls show that Donald Trump is up with the electoral college.
Right, but Harris is doing better than Biden. Harris is doing better than Biden with Hispanics, and she's doing better than Biden with independents. So those are areas which it seems to be more challenging. Trump's doing better on immigration by double digits, Israel wars by 7, the economy by just 5, guns by 1. Taxes are even, which I find interesting, on health care, election integrity, on abortion, on transgender issues. You can have that. Harris by 16. Climate change by 17. But transgender and climate change, you're not going to see them talking about that because America's moved on.
Trump wins with regularly attended worship goers, white men with no college degrees, rural voters, men in general. She does better with the black voters, urban voters, under age of 30, and voters 65 plus, college graduates, and women.
Right. So there's an absolute blizzard of polls out today. The New York Times just released a poll, a New York Times Philly Siena College, and it shows that the race is deadlocked. In Pennsylvania, Harris is up by 4, they say. And there's another poll from Morning Consult, and we know that Donald Trump's strong suit is the economy. He's at 46%. She is now tied with him at 46%. It just goes to show you that apparently people feel, and Brian brought up the point, she's doing better than Joe Biden did. So many people have compared her to Joe Biden. They just like her better than him. And now, according to that poll, they're tied. But it's all a coin toss. It is virtually deadlocked across the board.
So one of the issues that separates the candidates is fracking. And Kamala Harris has changed the position. She was against fracking. And now apparently she's for fracking. I had the opportunity to go talk with some people that are in the industry. Do they buy it? How it would impact them if Kamala Harris...
Where'd you go?
I went to Pennsylvania. And these are some of the folks I spoke with yesterday.
So there's not a whole lot in the world right now that doesn't rely on petroleum, okay? Everything that we're wearing, our glasses, plastics, that's aside from trucking and fuel and all those other things that everybody thinks about on the general scheme. But there's tens of thousands of us, probably more than that we will all be standing in the bread line because if you shut the oil field down, then all my eggs are in this basket. I know lots of guys, all our eggs are in the oil field.
If Kamala Harris is the next president, she once had the position of against fracking. Now she says she's okay with fracking. Do you believe her, A? And what do you think a presidency would be like under her?
I don't believe that. We've seen that waffling effect. The contradictions there. We're obviously paying very close attention to that. The sentiment around this whole region is nobody believes that.
I mean, we're going to air the full package later on, but I think the killer thing that I learned from this used to be blue. All Democrat. These guys
what town
were not, I forgot the town that we were in. But it just used to be, that working class, strong, deep blue. And they've all changed simply because of the issue. And one guy told me, he goes, look, this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. It's like I can't provide for my family if they get elected. And I think that's the big takeaway.
So you're not going to ban it. You're not going to say fracking's over. She's not going to do that. But what you do is you deny leases, you delay, and you pause. Right now, there's a pause on all LNG leases. Governor Shapiro doesn't even want to talk about it because it's killing his state. So they're going to think climate first instead of saying, how do we do this thing responsibly, which the frackers do. They're getting better and better at it. But what you do is you just shrink you expand the federal land and say you can't drill on it. Yeah. And then you shrink the amount of leases that you do, or you slow walk those leases. That's a limiting, which is also damaging.
I love these guys. I mean, that's our bread and butter. They produce everything for us.
Right.
So
our cars move because of them. Even electric cars move because of them, because the electricity is produced by coal or gas and stuff like that.
I think 95% of the world uses fossil fuels. Yeah, all this stuff about solar panels and stuff, it is, unless you're going to go outright and mine places like Minnesota and Nevada, you can't do it unless you want to depend on China. That point's just got to be made. Every person who has an electric car, just say, I understand, I appreciate that. Just know that we're helping China. Yeah. They got the rare earth, and we won't use ours because it's not environmentally sensitive enough, including happening in this place called Minnesota, where I think a governor is running for vice president.
That's right. And so ultimately, it's interesting, and we saw that number earlier, that the Teamsters decided not to endorse anybody. One of the things, because she actually is trailing him, he's way up at 60%, and she's at 35% with that poll, with the Teamsters, who do you like? But ultimately, one of the things the Teamsters, just like the frackers, like, Donald Trump's suggestion, no tax on overtime.
Yeah.
Those guys all make a ton of overtime, and that's one of the reasons they like that
They
guy.
already work 12-hour shifts. They don't get to see their family. They work 29 days straight. I mean, we'll talk about, we'll show the full package later on, but do you realize what you're going to do to these guys? These guys that many of them didn't go to college. They decided that they were going to be a part of the working class and go through trade school, and they provide for their family. And there's a lot of people that once were a part of the criminal justice system that cleaned up their act and decided they're going to be a part of society. All of that goes away with a new administration.
Well, Kamala Harris wants to pay for people to go to college, and she will be asking some of these individuals, or all these individuals who didn't go to college, to pay for other people.
It's unbelievable.
All right, more on politics throughout the day. In the meantime, it's like something out of a movie. Another wave of device explosions as Israel targets Hezbollah terrorist suspects. An inside look at how the real-life operation...
News alert, an assassination plot against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's defense minister foiled. Earlier this morning, an Israeli man allegedly recruited by Iran was charged. Mike Tobin is on the ground in Tel Aviv with the latest on that and the growing tensions between Israel and Hezbollah located in Lebanon. Mike.
And Brian, the head of Hezbollah's executive council says that Israel is in for a, quote, special punishment. But this morning, it seems that Israel is mostly on the offensive. The Israeli Air Force hit several targets in southern Lebanon today, including what's described as a weapons storage facility. And that follows a two-day flurry of violent espionage with sabotaged electronics, pagers, walkie-talkies, solar equipment, all exploding. So far, we know of 21 people killed and more than 3,000 injured. In the panic and paranoia that followed, an explosive device was found in the parking lot of the American University of Beirut Hospital. That device was placed into a crater and exploded. And it all comes after Israel's security cabinet officially included the Northern Front as one of the goals in this war. And the defense minister promised the war is entering a new phase.
The center of gravity is moving to the north, meaning that we are diverting forces, resources, energy towards the north. We have not forgotten the hostages, and we have not forgotten our tasks in the south. This is our duty, and we are performing it at the same time.
More dramatic developments. An Israeli businessman has been indicted and accused of working with Iran in an assassination plot against top Israeli officials. 73-year-old Mati Mamen had been living in Turkey. That's where he allegedly came in contact with an Iranian businessman in April of 2024. He was offered various tasks by Iranian operatives that included photographing crowded locations and ultimately assassination plots for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Defense Minister Yoav Galant, and Shin Bet intelligence chief Ronen Bar. Mamen's lawyer says he made an error in judgment, and he's been cooperating with Israeli authorities. Brian?
Wow, chaos everywhere. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. I want to get some more analysis on this. So let's bring in former CIA covert operator himself, Mike Baker. Mike, talk about how they infiltrated the supply chains to put some explosives in those beepers, the walkie-talkies, the solar panels in order to detonate these explosions.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and it's a very sophisticated operation. The heavy lift here is not so much the mechanics of implanting explosive materials into those devices. It's getting your hands on those devices before the final shipment into Lebanon. So the operation in a sense was to identify that they had a need or a desire to dumb down their communications. Hassan Nasrallah, the head of Hezbollah, had instructed Hezbollah, put away your cell phones, destroy them, put them in a lockbox, get rid of them, because of the fear that the IDF and Shin Bet and Mossad had infiltrated their cell phones. And so he said, we got to dumb down this thing. So they decided they got to go to pagers, handheld radios, walkie-talkies, and the operation to see that, understand that that's where they were going, develop sources who were able to assist, perhaps dangle opportunity in front of them for them to get this gear, and then get your hands on it, right, to the implants and to create the opportunity to remote detonate. That's an amazing operation.
So, Mike, you know this. Al-Qaeda stopped using cell phones when it was revealed that we were listening in on their calls. So they usually use human couriers. Hezbollah said, stop using cell phones. We'll use beepers. Now what do? A cup and a string?
Well, that's it. And that's part of the reason why this is such an important operation, because the further they dumb it down, the more inefficient Hezbollah becomes, right? First of all, it creates this fear, this paranoia of who can I trust? And that's always a useful thing, whether you're talking about Hezbollah, Hamas, a Mexican cartel, in the old days, the IRA. If you get them looking inwards, right, and thinking, I can't trust you, suddenly, things start to bind up and they're not operationally effective. So that's very important. But where do they go from dumbing it down from this point? Is what you pointed out, handwritten notes, talking face to face. Look, I'm only going to trust handing a message to my cousin. I know him and I know I can trust him. So that's how it works. And this is, again, this works on several levels, right? It's not just about injuring or killing Hezbollah fighters. It's got a bigger purpose.
The bigger purpose is, if we're going to attack Hezbollah, get them when there's chaos and disarray and distrust. And now I understand there are jet fighters over Beirut, IDF jet fighters. And people say, why would you open up a second front? Because they know the longer you wait, the more powerful Hezbollah is going to get, because Iran is not going to stop supplying them. It's a very tenuous time in the Middle East. Thanks so much, Mike Baker. Appreciate it.
Jared, take care, man.
All right. Meanwhile, Harris, the vice president, tries to flip the script on fracking. But do energy workers believe her? Lawrence went to Pennsylvania yesterday to find out in a Fox and Friends exclusive.
They're going to have even more regulation. They're going to have people that
carry out the largest deportation, a mass deportation in American history. Imagine what that would look like and what that would be.
Well, that was Vice President Kamala Harris slamming former President Trump's plan for a mass deportation while addressing the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. But Patty Morin is also speaking out after her daughter Rachel was murdered by an illegal immigrant last year. Patty addressed a congressional panel yesterday and had this to say.
They say that the borders are safe. We live 1,800 miles away from the southern border. They're not safe. If you have a sanctuary city in your state, you're not safe. You folks are just going to continue with your partisan politics and not really take to heart the lives of the American people that put you in office to begin with.
And Patty Morin joins me now. Patty, thank you so much for being here. You know, I've listened to you testify several times now on Capitol Hill, and each time it's heartbreaking to hear about what Rachel endured and what you and your family have gone through as a result. And it must be very difficult to speak so publicly about this. So what are you hoping to achieve in doing so?
What I'm hoping to achieve is that they will actually listen to the American people. I know that there's a lot of rhetoric going back and forth between partisan parties and pointing fingers. But they're forgetting that this goes beyond politics. It's the lives of the American people. And it's not that Americans are against immigration. What we are against is massive immigration, illegal immigration, swarming our borders, swarming and filling up our cities and towns that our local communities can't afford to take care of them, but also we don't know who we're letting into the country. It's not just Hispanics, but it's folks from 160 different countries around the world. And a lot of them are the criminals and the gangs and the criminal, so early in the morning I can't think. Okay. But just the folks that these countries don't want and want to send out of their countries so then their countries look safe.
Yeah, Patty, we
but
hear
it's not safe for us.
No, it is not. And, you have been very clear, and you alluded to it a bit in what you just said, that you don't want this to be a political issue. You don't want your daughter to be the face of a political cause. You want this to be an American issue. So what do you mean by that? And do you think that you're seeing some success in getting there?
What I mean by it is I want people to go beyond politics, and I do realize it was a real eye-opener, actually, sitting in these hearings to see how divided and how far apart the Democratic Party is from the Republican Party. And a lot of times in these hearings, they spout their values and what they've done, but actually